Hi man, Breach.
How you doing?
Good man.
Wicked.
Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
Let's go straight to it. Really want to know where you started, what were your influences? Because I know it's around 2001 that you first got the scene.
I was just like a kid. I was into scratching. That's what got me into sort of DJing.
Yeah.
Doing all the turntable stuff and like beat juggling and all that.
Yeah,
so that's kind of how I started, was the sort of hip hop side. And then got into mixing, and I was mixing house and garage and stuff like that, and jungle, and just kind of felt the jungle the most, so kept mixing that. And
what year was that when you decided?
That was like, I don't know, I was like 15, 16, so kind of 95 or something.
Right.
So I got into the sort of, that kind of mid-90s jungle then, started buying tunes. I kind of just realised if you want to get sets as a DJ, you're going to need to make some tunes really to kind of break through. So that was kind of why I started making beats and kind of just wanted to try it out really, and got some good results. And got some tracks to A-sides on Eastland recordings, and he was the first guy that sort of picked up on my stuff and was like, yeah, I'll put a 12-inch out.
It was much more jungle.
It was jungle, yeah. My first track was really kind of jungle sounding with all the like amens and beats chopped up. And so I was about 18 then, or like 19, and got that track out, and then did some more stuff with E-side. And A-sides was kind enough to hook me up with the guys he knew, like Clue and kind of Solar, these other labels that that he dealt with. And that was a really good starting point for me to sort of get in the scene, basically.
So what led you to your style now, as it were, because it's very much different now?
Yeah, I mean, there was a kind of element where you played all these jungly beats in the club. Often people weren't getting it, and it was too complicated and all over the shop. And however much I love that stuff, when you're mixing it, it's kind of like hard to keep a nice roll going. Yeah, so I think over DJing for a while, I kind of got into the more rolling sounds. And I guess from watching other DJs and other producers, that kind of stuff inspired me. And I guess the sound went like that towards the sort of late 90s. The jungle kind of phased out a bit, and it was the more tech and sort of, darker,
drum bass,
basically drum and bass, yeah. So yeah, I kind of moved with the times with that, and kind of tried to just get the ultimate tunes for DJs really.
So tell us a bit about the equipment that you first started using there, and what was your favourite with the aiming loops? And
yeah, it was really sort of budget to start with. I just had some old speakers and a little. I started on an SU10, which is like a little pad sampler where you could chop up an amen and sort of hit some buttons and rearrange it, and that was fun to start with. And then I got an ENU sampler and Cubase, and did that really until I sort of hooked up with A-sides. So those first few tunes were just literally a computer and a sampler, and recorded straight out the sampler.
So was you very much into the analog sort of?
I was into that, and yeah, and it was, you couldn't really do it all in the computer back then, so you needed a sampler to do it with, which was a good sort of way to learn how to use the equipment. And then I got a Mackie mixing desk and some outboard compressors, and kind of got into tweaking some gear basically.
Do you think that's where that's like your sound now?
I think so, yeah. It was like compressing the drums, getting that sort of Total Science were a big influence to me for sort of beats, because around that period no one's beats sounded as punchy. And it was just like, how do they get it so punchy? And that was a lot of my quest, was to sort of get beats as punchy as Total Science. And it is like a quest of just, layering things up, experimenting until you get a kind of a good product that you're like, yeah.
Because even like your sounds now, they're not like it's hard to say the word conventional.
Yeah.
Drum bass is not really conventional.
But I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a massive synth head, so I've never really been all about synths. I'm more into samples and kind of real sort of instruments. So I've always tried to use them, but kind of make them sound futuristic-y or kind of drum and bassy, and sort of fit that musicality into like a kind of techno basis, if you know what I mean.
It's interesting that you should mention about synths, not using synths or trying to veer away from them. Because, another interview that I was only watching the other day with DJ Premier, and he said the exact same thing.
Right.
The difference with hip hop back then was that it was very much.
Who's that, Premier?
Yeah,
no, he's one of my favourites as an inspiration. So that's probably where a lot of that comes from.
Like where he sampled tune.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where all that's gone now, everyone's just like really.
Exactly.
Yes.
No, I love Premier and like Shadow and all those guys. That's the kind of music I was really into. Just that great instrumental hip hop and like. So that's kind of how I look at it more. It's more like hip hop instrumental based than kind of like synth dance kind of like But that's, you know, I like tunes like that. And it's almost like not my forte, if you know what I mean. Silent Witness, who I did a lot of tracks with in the past, he's great at all the synth stuff. So in a lot of our collabs, he'd kind of get the wicked synth sound going, and I'd be better at the arranging and the mixing kind of side of that stuff. So it's useful to work with people who are good at synths because it kind of brings up that side of it for me a bit.
Yeah, of course. Was that like working with Goldie as well? Was that the?
I haven't actually worked with him. I've done stuff for Metalheads, but I've never been in the studio with him. But I know he's very much like that as a kind of he likes the whole structure and the idea of the tune and a kind of layout and. You know, writes lots of stuff down on paper. Like Nico's a guy I've worked with a lot from No U-Turn, and he's very much like Goldie in that sense of understanding like a concept basically. And rather than just sitting there going with the synth, it's like, hang on, how do we make the best D&B tune of the year and kind of try and come at it with a new angle that no one's done.
It's very much like a Rockwell sort of thing as well.
Yeah, I mean he's quite experimental, and I think, you know, fairness to him, came with a sound that wasn't really being done that much, and it does, you know, instantly give you a sound that's recognisable to some extent.
Let's talk a bit more about your music itself and what you've got going so far. What can you tell us?
Right now we've got the Other Side album, which is a kind of various artists album on Symmetry, which is my label. And we just got a selection of different artists of all the stuff I've been really feeling for like the last year. And just got a compilation of wicked drum and bass on the kind of darker, sort of deeper edge.
But you're still the same sort of minimalist?
It's kind of minimal, it's a mixed bag, there's some musical tracks on there. I've tried to keep it a nice kind of full spectrum of stuff, so it's not all kind of minimal and dark, or kind of heavy and all kind of too floaty and musical.
Is that more to do with your sets as well?
Exactly, and that's what I've said in another interview, that the album is basically like a set, and I will play like the whole album tonight probably at Hit and Run, because it's like, that's how I kind of picked the album. It was almost like what you play in a DJ set as a journey, like across the boards. And so there's guys like Extra, you know, Silent Witness, quite a list of people on there who like fit the sound of the label really well. So it's been great to sort of hook up these tunes and get a kind of package that competes with other labels doing that kind of stuff, basically.
Well, I think yours will anyway, because it's just going to be so unique, regardless. You know, I think it'll definitely stand out. But who are some of the artists that you'd love to be collaborating with, you know, in the future?
There's loads of guys. I mean, a lot of these guys I got involved with, I got tracks off them, but I didn't do tracks with them. So it's like Ulterior Motive, like Extra, who you'll speak to in a minute. Trying to remember who else is on there right now. I should always forget. But you know, there was Octane DLR. I did a couple of tracks with them, and they were like a new crew that I haven't worked with before. So that was cool. And it's great to link up with these people and sort of see how they do things, they see how you do things, and hopefully get a fresh beat.
So let's take it to the future now. What's happening with Break?
We got a few remixes from this album. So I've been doing a few remixes for. I've got a Dom and Roland remix. This guy Willem, who's also on the album. I've done a track for him on Ingredients, another remix. So there's a few little remixes rolling out, and kind of I've had a few studio troubles, so I've not been in the studio much recently. So I'm just kind of waiting to get a new studio set up. And
it's still very much up in the air.
It's up in the air. I've got no real setup set up all my gears.
That's killing you, that.
It's killing me, mate. It's hard. Like, I've got a little setup with some small speakers.
You've got to have at least.
I know, there's no proper bass, so you can't sit there and like do your thing. So that's really what I'm waiting, just to get back in and make some new tunes, because most of it's on the album. And there was quite a few that didn't make it, but they need finishing. So I'm like, there'll be a nice batch once I just get back in.
How many tracks is on the album?
There's 12 on the album. But you know, I had like 16 or 18 tracks, and you just can't fit them all on. So we've already got stuff. There's a guy called L33. I'm trying to think of some other dudes. A guy called Edit, who's been sending me some great stuff. So there's lots of guys who I've got tracks from, but I just couldn't fit them on the album. So that's really what next year's all about, is getting more artists on the label and really like stepping up the label.
So was the album more of eclectic from different producers rather than just your own?
I mean, I think there's like 3 of my solo tracks on there. And it was kind of like, I started my next album after the second one. I thought, okay, I'll get on the next album. But when there was a few tunes in, like from being sent all these tracks by other guys, I just thought, I can't release enough singles in a year to get all these guys on the label. So like an album will be a better way of just having a nice selection of tracks and be like, here's the crew with the tunes. And now and you can kind of pace it out, see how it goes, and then be like, right, we need more tracks from those guys. This track went down really well. So it was just a good way of getting
marketing to everybody.
Yeah, exactly, and kind of just putting a nice package out there.
Nice.
But yeah, that's really the plan for next year, just to get more guys on board and get the label up there with, you know, Critical and Shogun, Dispatch, these other guys. So it's like, that's the kind of the area we're in the scene. So we just want to kind of push that.
So that's your aim for like 2013?
Yeah, just sort of push that side of the music. That's why we called the album The Other Side, because it's just sort of like, you've got your quite mainstream drum and bass, or your kind of loud, noisy stuff. And this is the other side of the more kind of laid back flavoursome, kind of dubby vibes.
So can we expect like videos to be?
Yeah, we've got a couple hooked up for this album. I'm hoping they're going to be ready to come out soon. It's always a bit of a tricky one. It's not my field so much, and like I always leave it too late. And it's like, oh, the video's never done in time. So it's something I'm working on for these next releases, to really get the videos in time so they're out there. But I'm more focused on music, so it's something that like I'm just getting used to. Everything's got to be on YouTube with a video these days, and it's like I'm always focused on getting the mix right. So it's a new kind of angle to get used to as a label, but it's good. So we're going to do more and more videos for sure.
Well, Brick, it's been a pleasure.
Nice to chat, man. Wicked. Thanks a lot.
Elek Tronique TV.